Hello, welcome to another episode of. Is this an episode or is it a show? Anyway, hello, welcome to. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Hello, welcome to Upholstery University. Today we have a little bit different of a video. I received an email and it kind of sparked inspiration for this whole video, and I really wanted to share how the whole process of me learning upholstery started. When I started, how the entire Wyotech process went, getting my certificate. I didn't really get a degree, they don't give those. My experience there, and now nearly, 9 years later, where I'm at now after going to Wyotech. So I first heard about Wyotech when when I was in high school. We had representatives from Wyotech come to my mechanical technology class I was taking, and because I've always been into cars. Even when I was a little kid, I remember in kindergarten, I had a Lamborghini Diablo, like a Matchbox or Hot Wheel car, and it was purple, and I used to carry that around with me everywhere, and I used to tell people Lamborghini facts. That was my thing. So cars have been a deep-rooted passion of mine for a long time. So I was in my, I believe, third year of mechanical technology in my high school, and the Wyotech representatives came and they shared their whole thing about how we can start a career in the automotive industry. And they talked mostly about the mechanical technology side of, or the automotive side of Wyotech. I got a pamphlet from them and heard about the collision repair and refinishing. And I thought that was really cool because I wanted to learn how to paint and do body work and repair cars. And I thought that sounded really cool. And my parents have always pushed me to go to college, and I really didn't want to, nor do I still want to go to college. So I saw this as oh cool, I'll do this for a year, and then I'll get a job afterwards, and then that's my college experience. So that was part of the reason for me going. But after I learned about their automotive collision and refinishing course, I thought that was really cool. Then they had electives. They had street rod. They had custom metal fab. They had business management. Business management something, I don't remember the name. One other one, I believe, then trim and upholstery. So I had originally signed up to take the automotive collision course. Then the second course is like a package, would have been refinishing, so painting cars and stuff. Other than my electives, which I had the shop management or business management course, then street rod fabrication. I signed up for everything, and upholstery was one of those. And while going to school, I made sure I went every day. I studied. Through the first half of school, I graduated with a 4.0. I got A's and everything. I did pretty well in the class. I got my iCar welding certification, which who knows how important that was. So I used to be a certified MIG welder. And it got to the point where I started looking into jobs at businesses in the Sacramento area. That's the location I went to, is the Sacramento one. And I started hearing about nobody really caring that I went to Wyotech, or that Wyotech just pumps students out and most of them don't have any skills. So it was actually, I was starting to realize that it was a disadvantage for me that I went to Wyotech because I had that name associated on my resume. So I started getting really bummed out when it was toward the end of the refinishing course. I was like, I don't know if I want to continue because I'm not getting a degree. It's just some certificate I'm getting. And I was like, oh, that's fine. I'll switch to upholstery, trim and upholstery, because street rod was more painting, custom metal fab was more fabrication, more welding, which I already had my certification. The business shop management class was business related, which at this point I had planned on going and getting my business degree at a traditional 4-year college or a community college, then a 4-year college. So after deciding I was going to go to college, I was like, okay, if I'm going to stay here anyway, my mom convinced me to just finish it and just stay till it's done. I had switched my elective to trim and upholstery. And because I'm like, if I'm going to stay and learn and spend the money and learn through the end of my course, then I want to make sure I learn every discipline I can, because I got good grades, I performed well in the classes, so I felt confident in welding, I felt confident in painting, at least at a beginning level where I could take it from there further. So upholstery was my next class I wanted to take. So I dropped the other ones, switched to trim and upholstery, and I remember I had a concert, my first day of class. I had a concert the night before, so I was up to like 2 or 3 a.m., I'm pretty sure. And I came into class started at 6 a.m., and I was exhausted. I had no idea how a sewing machine worked. It was the first day of class, so it was like we were going over like orientation stuff. It was pretty boring. And we started sewing on the sewing machines, and I had no idea how a seat was put together. I had no idea how to do anything around a sewing machine. So we learned those processes through there, and by the end of the course, I received an outstanding student award in trim and upholstery. So graduated top of my class in at a school that didn't have a great name for itself in Sacramento. So I was like, okay, whatever. I graduated from there and moved on and started looking for jobs. And this is kind of when problems started to arise. So yeah, graduated top of my class. Once I got a job offer from a teacher of mine, one of my professors, to move to Orange County and go work in a collision and refinishing shop. At that point, I was already committed to moving back to Oregon, going to school. I had already signed up for classes, so I had to turn that job down. And when I moved back, I got my bill for school, and it came out to about $32,000 for the year. And I was kind of worried about it. So I was like, you know what? I should start looking for a job. So I started applying for jobs in collision shops, started applying for jobs at upholstery shops. And just because I only had school experience, I didn't have any other experience, that wasn't really going anywhere. So I called. One of the first problems I had was I called my school, because the whole thing was if you graduated from Wyotech, you get job placement assistance. So I called them up. I'm like, hey, I'm ready for a job. I graduated. I did amazing in the school, got a 4.0, perfect attendance. I thought that would show well on a job application, on my resume. I thought that would represent me well as a hard, dedicated worker. And so I emailed them, and they're like, oh yeah, that's not really the area we service. So I'm like, oh, well, I live here, and I mean, what can you help me with? They sent me some job listings for jobs that I had already applied to, I'd already seen. Basically, all they were doing was searching on Google, just like I was doing, and sending me links to those same jobs. So it was completely useless. So I kind of just gave up on them and stopped trying to use their job placement assistance. I'm like, all right, whatever. This is dumb. And it was 2012 I graduated. So between 2012 and 2014 or so, 2015, my loans were in deferment because I was a student going to school. So I didn't pay toward my loans, and the interest rate on one of the loans was 12.5% that they kind of like roped me into, saying that I couldn't continue on with my elective course unless I got that loan. And I was 18 by myself at school in Sacramento, not knowing anyone around. I'm like, well, if I want to keep going to school, I guess I have to do this. So I was kind of stuck in that situation where by 2015, my loans have grown to about $45,000 or so. And that's when I started getting pretty worried about it. So I started paying a little bit here and there as I was working, and never ended up finding a job. Wyotech really never ended up helping me that much. So I really just started doing upholstery on my own, and that's really where I started learning a lot, taking the fundamentals. I'm not saying Wyotech didn't help at all, but taking the basic fundamentals that Wyotech taught me, applying it and using it for myself and my own business. And I kind of just did that for 8 years nearly. By 2015, I heard about a lawsuit for Wyotech. The lawsuit claims that Wyotech was found guilty of scamming students by exaggerating job placement data and convincing students to take on large loans which they cannot pay back now. Those students who had low income believed Wyotech scams and took out loans. They were made to think that high tuition fees are worth their high standard education, and in the end, it would be compensated with high salary jobs. As a result, many students fell into the trap of Wyotech scams. This is an article from studentloansresolved.com. So that was me. I fell into the trap of getting a ridiculously high interest rate loan that grew to the point where I was worried about how I was even going to pay it off, because an entry-level job in a body shop when I was applying was paying like $11 or $12 an hour. How am I supposed to pay off a nearly, at the time, $32,000, $34,000 loan, making $11 or $12 an hour, even living with my parents? So by 2015, I saw that there was a lawsuit against Wyotech for the exact situation I had, and my graduating class at the location I went to fell into that category of students that were taken advantage of. So I filled out the documentation and was told to not pay the loans anymore. Not pay toward them, but interest would still accrue. So interest kept growing on the accounts over the following years, but I never had a payment due. So I kind of just forgot about it and hoped that the lawsuit would actually go through, and I wouldn't be stuck with this at that point, man, I don't know, $48,000 loan. And I really don't know the price of the loan because my parents had signed the loan documentation. Most of the loan was at a 5% That was the 12% loan that I had was a private loan that they forced me into later. The first original loan I got was a direct student loan, so that would have been a government loan. That one was at about 4%. So the private loan was never deferred. I had to keep paying that until around 2015. The company Genesis Lending, it was called, went out of business. So I got a check back for the amount of the loan I paid for, and then the rest was canceled. So that private loan, the 12% one, was gone, and I was relieved. So I was really hoping that the same thing would happen with the federal direct loan that I got. But it was never easy for me to track that or see the balance because it was under my parents' credit. It still doesn't show up on my credit at all. So it was always a weight on my shoulders of, oh man, I got to pay this because it's starting to affect my parents. Their debt to income ratio for wanting to refinance their house was off because they had this big loan, my big loan, on their credit. So it was something that it was just always in the back of my mind. I hated thinking about it. And finally, April 12th, 2021, I get an email. Dear Shaheen, the Department of Education has approved your claim for forgiveness of your federal student loans under the Borrowed Defense to Repayment rules. We have determined that you are entitled to forgiveness of the loans associated with your enrollment in programs at Corinthian colleges, which is who owns Wyotech. Based on the school's material misrepresentations to you, the department has also determined that the value of the education that you received was minimal. I got this email and I basically cheered in my house because I no longer have this loan hanging over my head. My parents, that loan that they got for me is cleared. It's gone. So my Wyotech experience, though bumpy, and it was 8 years of a little bit of regret going. Not so much regret because I wouldn't have learned upholstery otherwise or even gotten into upholstery, but regret that I had that financial situation I got put into. It felt like I was forced into just because I heard these two guys talk in my automotive class at school. And now I don't have to worry about it. I went to Wyotech and I don't owe them anything now. I can carry on with my life, continue doing upholstery, and I don't owe Wyotech a thing. And I couldn't be happier. Would you like to ask me some questions? Or are you going to pause?
What do you wish that Wyotech had taught you that they didn't?
Oh man. I wish they would have taught me that they didn't teach me everything. Because I went through these courses thinking I'm going to be a freaking pro by the time the classes are done. As we were going through the courses, there was a course book, and it was as if we finished all the modules for the course, we know everything. Come to find out, man, for example, upholstery is the only one I continued on with. I didn't ever weld or paint or anything after learning everything in school. For the next 2 years after taking the upholstery course, I sucked. It took years before I felt confident to really take on projects and not be nervous about it. But it was those first experiences and those mistakes early on that really taught me the minute details and the little things that there's no way school would have been able to teach me in 4 months.
Did Wyotech teach you anything about running your own upholstery shop?
In my upholstery course, what kind of sparked the idea of me starting an upholstery shop was we did go over a section in the upholstery course about running a shop, about bidding customers, bidding for jobs. So yeah, we covered it a little bit, but it was more like a 1 day, maybe day and a half little module that we just skimmed over it. But it was that first idea of tying a dollar figure that I could make with the skills I'm learning together that really kind of excited me and made me want to start a business. But by no means did they teach you how to actually start the business. It was mostly like if you want to do upholstery really bad as a hobby, how you can charge people, basically.
All my other questions you covered.
It's okay, ask them.
I got one.
Yeah, what's up?
Did you feel like you were scammed and or lied to in the same way that they were found guilty? And as a follow-up, looking back, did you have peers that you feel were falling into that trap?
So even the first day before school started, I signed up to have student housing because I didn't know anybody in Sacramento. I got dropped off in Sacramento basically by my parents. My mom cried when she dropped me off, just because she was going to miss me. It was my first time living away from home.
She's a sweetheart.
And But the first it was even before my first day of class, they had said that there was a shuttle that goes from student housing to campus. Campus was a big warehouse. It wasn't a traditional campus. Student housing was a motel. And so I just had a room in the motel. And the shuttle was some 12-seater little van that would drive me from the hotel, make a bunch of stops, and then take me to school eventually. So that was the first misrepresentation. The next one was I actually almost couldn't even get into the upholstery course because after I had signed up for it and was expecting to be taking it, they said that there weren't enough students that were going to be taking it, so they had to cancel the course. And I had to pick something else, which I had already gotten the loans for. And basically they were trying to force me to take another class. That was at the point I almost left because I was absolutely furious. I ended up leaving their student housing and getting an apartment. I ended up not using the shuttle and getting rides from friends. I didn't have a car there for a year. And I kind of just made the best of the situation I could, but overall it was not great. I would say they absolutely represented themselves. The education, I remember one time in my collision class, we were taught to use body filler and sand in a certain way. And come to find out, another teacher had to go back and reteach us how to do that because that original professional professor that we had taught us the wrong way. And it wasn't compliant with ICAR guidelines for collision repair. So who knows their qualifications of who they were hiring. I think I only got anything good out of it because I really dedicated my time and effort into it. But 98% of the students that went to that school, as far as I know, they don't do anything related to cars because they didn't learn anything at the school.
Aside from collision repair and upholstery, did you have any other subjects that interested you?
So while I was going to school, outside of school, I started taking part in the 24 Hours of Lemons. That's not the 24 Hours of Le Mans. It's 24 Hours of Lemons. So I started taking part in the 24 Hours of Lemons at Infineon Raceway and Buttonwillow. And that was through a fab shop that I was helping out here and there. I had project car at their shop I would go and work on every once in a while. And they built roll cages for these cars. So basically you buy a $500 car, take it on a race. And these race days became a really fun thing for me to do. It was probably one of the few fun things I did actually while I was in Sacramento for that year. But it really kind of opened my eyes to racing because these were real race teams that were racing these stupid piece of crap cars just in their off season because it was fun. So I never got into racing, never did it myself, but took up go-karting for a little while. I thought that was a lot of fun. But school related, no, not really.
I got one for you.
My loan is gone.
Do you feel the quality of the curriculum was aligned with what you're paying?
Oh man, absolutely not. So I guess for the time I spent there, because I mean, if we think about it as far as how long the professor had to be there, in my upholstery class, for example, it was 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. So it was near a full-time job. From 6 a.m. to 12 p.m., we would be in class and working on our modules and learning the things we needed to learn for the class. Was it worth, $14,000 for the upholstery course after everything for 4 months? I don't think so. Not when there's 30 students taking the same class and there's one professor running the whole thing. I think it was definitely overpriced and not worth its value.
If you had stuck with collision repair, do you think you would have tried to start your own business, or do you think you would have been stuck with the reality of struggling to find a job like so many other students did?
The nice thing about upholstery is that I was able to start my business with $3,000. I bought a sewing machine, I bought a steamer, I bought a few little supplies, and I started my business out of my parents' basement. With collision repair and refinishing, I didn't have the upfront cost that it would have needed to buy a $25,000, $40,000 paint booth alone, let alone an entire facility that would allow me to start my own business in collision repair or refinishing. So I don't think I would have, meaning if I didn't take upholstery, I wouldn't have started my own business. I wouldn't have learned as much as I have just doing it on my own. And I probably would have been stuck in a job making $12 an hour, working my way up to $15 an hour maybe, which, not hating on making that much money, that's totally fine, but not when you're spending $35,000, $40,000 to make a pretty average wage. No, the value of the school I don't think was worth it. The value of the school that I got, now that I am getting all my loans reimbursed, I didn't pay for anything at this point. I think it was worth it. So now I'm pretty happy with my decision 8-9 years later. Thank you guys. I know this is a long drawn out video, but thank you guys for watching. I just really wanted to share my experience going to Wyotech, how I learned upholstery, or at least where I started with upholstery. And if you have loans from Wyotech, feel free to leave a comment below. You can message us on Facebook as well. And I'd be happy to give you the information I can to help you get your loans taken care of as well. It's a weight that if it's taken care of, you'll feel a lot better, I swear. But thank you guys so much for spending this time with us, and we'll see you next time. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, hit the little notification bell. This may have been a little bit more of a depressing video than normal. Our other videos are much more fun, I swear. But yeah, thanks for watching. Bye-bye. $3.95. Don't put that in the video.
Shit, that's funny.
I don't know what that is.
Oh,
Just
okay.
free.
Should I ask you if you want me to ask you questions?
No, it's fine. Just you can just ask the question, I think.
May I ask a question, please?
Mr. Shaheen. Mr. Upholstery University. Mr. Professor.
Mr. Upholstery.
Mr. Upholstery, that's cool. I don't mind that name.